thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Warning. The Outsider's Edge contains strong opinions, unconventional views, and contrarian stances. Listen, if you dare.
Hey, yo!
Guerrilla tactics, it's time for warfare. Yo, we came to battle, yo, we aim to kill.
What's going on, everybody? I'd like to thank you once again for listening to another episode of The Outsider's Edge. It's your boy Rance, aka Ray Cash, and I am here with my golden lovers brethren, the Coda to my Kenny, Mr. Kyle Morris. What's happening, Kyle? How you doing, man?
It's a great night. Happy to be here. Once again, shout out to our missing brother in arms, Karl. Hashtag bring Karl back.
Yes, bring Karl back. The column's coming in 2022, something like that. Yeah, so Karl will be back one of these days. But in his replacement, we have Mr. Social Suplex. We have one half of the host of Keeping It Strong Style, a.k.a. the ace of podcasting.
The flagship show.
The flagship. We have the superstar himself, Mr. Jeremy Donovan.
Hey. What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on the Outsider's Edge for the first time. You know, this week, the young boy, Josh Smith, he was, asking why he wasn't invited on the show. And I told him, I was like, they didn't want a young boy on. They didn't need a young boy. They needed a main eventer. They needed a top draw. And so they called in the big guns.
Top guys.
Yeah, there's no room in the mid card on this show. I got that on lockdown.
So yeah, we got a few things we want to talk about, but Kyle, you wanted to start the show a certain way, right?
Yeah. So this is our first official Outsider's Edge of the month of October. And as I'm sure y'all are aware, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And what you may not be aware of is that my mom is actually a breast cancer survivor. She battled breast cancer for most of last year. And I wanted to start off the show with two statements. The first one, everybody get your annual health screenings, please. Especially to our female listeners, get your annual mammograms. Early detection is so important when it comes to not just breast cancer, but any kind of cancer, and it can strike anyone at any age. But my second PSA relating to Breast Cancer Awareness Month is, y'all give your money to literally anybody but the Susan G. Komen Foundation. They do not do good charity work. The majority of your donations do not go to research or care. They go to overhead costs. And if you're going to donate to a cancer society, donate to a better one than Susan G. Komen.
Okay. I'm with it. Yeah, my grandmother is a breast cancer survivor too. It's something near and dear to both of our hearts. I'm pretty sure Jeremy's too. Jeremy works for a nonprofit. So, yeah. Please go get checked out. Cancer is a bitch. We need to make sure we do what we can to eradicate cancer.
Right, like you're saying, Kyle, it's so important. Get that early checkup, and just you might not feel like anything's wrong, but hey, just go ahead and do it.
Absolutely. So often, if you catch it early, it's the difference between being a survivor and being a statistic.
Yeah.
That's a real somber way to start the show, but we're about to get right into it.
I promise that'll be the saddest thing we do today.
I can't promise that because this is the Edge. We say some crazy things. Oh, by the way, Jeremy, yeah, we go hard in the show, so you gotta go hard.
Yeah, trust me. I know. I listen to the Edge all the time. I know how. Both of you guys have strong opinions, and I know the warning comes on at the beginning of the show. So,
we call ourselves contrarian, but it's not contrarian if you're right.
Hey man, yeah. So, yeah, I like the way you put that. I need to use that. I like the way you put that.
That sounds like it could be on a T-shirt.
Hey man, look.
No. The Outsider's Edge T-shirt is gonna be "Catch that ass whooping."
that is Kyle's new. That and the Geek Squad are Kyle's new sayings. If you didn't know listening, those are the Kyleisms of the show.
Facts.
So, normally we talk WWE, but yes, we pay attention to New Japan. We watch New Japan. I know I'm Mr. WWE. I'm a homer, but I do enjoy New Japan more often than not. And a lot of stuff has been happening over there recently that's been catching my eye and that's been super interesting as of late. And they've had two major shows. King of Pro Wrestling just happened this past Monday, and the show before that was, what was the show before that, Jeremy?
Fighting Spirit
Fighting Spirit
Unleashed
Only.
in Long
Yes.
Beach.
Yes. And a lot of stuff's been happening, so I kind of wanted to talk to my guy, catch up with him, and kind of figure out what the hell's going on, because almost 3 months away from Wrestle Kingdom.
Yep, yeah, we're on the road to Wrestle Kingdom right now.
So I guess we can kind of I know you guys just released y'all's newest episode of Keeping It Strong Style. I haven't got a chance to listen to that yet, but I just wanted to I told you earlier, I'm sorry if I asked you the same questions y'all talked about. But I think we don't really have to go through the card per se. We're gonna hit everything just about. But I think the biggest talking point leaving King of Pro Wrestling is that Jado, Gato, and Switchblade have joined the Bullet Club OGs.
Yeah, definitely one of the big talking points there.
And a great example of, I have gotten a chance to listen to the latest episode of KISS, and I think it's a great example of what y'all were talking about with some of that westernization in New Japan.
Yeah.
Well, before we even go any further, how do you feel about that? Because I just read an article earlier today saying that the morale is lower than it's been in a long time because Harold Measury, or how do you say his last name?
May.
Yeah, Harold May. Him and his new group who took over. That's the new guy, right?
Yeah, Harold May. Yeah, he's a new president. They brought him in specifically for the global expansion for New Japan. He came from a big toy company, and he did like wonders for that company, and getting it to go international. And so they brought him in to kind of take over the international expansion of New Japan. But since he came in around Dominion time, and so now he's kind of like brought in his own crew, and the reports are that several officials that New Japan wrestlers respect have been let go and replaced by Harold May's regime. So a lot of wrestlers are unhappy about that. And since he's been in, a lot of people have been saying that New Japan has become more westernized with a lot of the more storyline driven stuff they're doing, and just obviously a lot. But pushing the Gaijins. There's a lot more English content they're doing on their YouTube channels. They've been to the U.S. several times this year, and a lot of New Japan fans who have been watching for a long time, the quote unquote gatekeepers of New Japan, are really, really down on the product. And just think that they're going in a bad direction. Personally, I do see some of the westernization. I do not think it's as bad as a lot of people are complaining about. And I still think we kind of need to sit back and just watch it and see what they're going. But there are some things that are kind of questionable and some changes that I'm not the biggest fan about.
Like what, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so I mean. So we talked about Switchblade joining the Bullet Club. I have no problem with Switchblade joining a group and having his own faction, but it's just the whole Bullet Club storyline. I think it's been kind of drawn out. This thing, the storyline started pretty much at the beginning of the year and has gone through different twists and turns.
Sure.
With Cody, going against Kota Ibushi, and then him and Kenny having issues, and then they wrestled at Ring of Honor Super Card of Honor, and then for a long time there was like a big drought in the storyline until they came back to San Francisco and Cody and Kenny wrestled again. So mainly it was like being the elite that was like carrying this Bullet Club feud, and then it was like on again, off again in New Japan. And to me, I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't think there should be two Bullet Clubs. Like either the elite guys are the Bullet Club and the Tongans are the Firing Squad, or the Tongans are the Bullet Club and Kenny and them are just the elite. I just think it's been
That's the answer because, as you know, the Tongans are right and we are all wrong, and we don't want no smoke
All
with the
different
Tongans.
Tongans. We are nothing compared to them. They are everything. Yes.
Yeah. And plus, it would make more sense that way because New Japan owns the Bullet Club rights and logos and all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure the Young Bucks and those guys own the Elite. So it would make sense that way to do it that way.
Well, it makes more sense because Fale and Tama were
They're
founders
legit
of the
OGs,
Bullet
yeah.
Club.
Right. So at this point of the year, I would have thought that we would have had a resolution of this story or just gone a different direction. Like I really feel like there was a misstep with Cody. Like I feel like Cody would have been better off being a heel and kind of splitting off and doing his own thing. But I understand they wanted him to be babyface for All In. He's winning the NWA title. He's really good friends with the Young Bucks, and it probably made more sense for being the Elite and Ring of Honor, which is his first priority, for him to not break up with those guys. But yeah, I just wish that, I think it's too much, NWO, Black and White, NWO, Wolfpack. It's like, how long is this going to go on? Like, there seems to be no resolution. Yeah,
NWO
not a big
start
fan
in
of that.
Japan, so for the record, the actual idea was a Japanese idea that Bischoff took and Americanized.
Right,
But
yeah.
So I read the article and I really thought about, because again, I'm not tapped into a lot of the New Japan chatter from fans as much as WWE because I don't watch New Japan like I do WWE. But I really was thinking like, man, people are upset with things, the way things are going. And then I had to remember, well, yeah, there was a lot of complaining about the fact that they had a triple threat match for a title. Like that was a big issue.
Yeah,
And
that was
Well, one of the things Kenny mentioned during his post-match promo was like, how many of y'all in the crowd are watching your first triple
It's
threat
crazy.
match ever?
Yeah.
Like-
Well, the thing too with Kenny, his whole title reign, he said when he won the title, he was going to do different things. And
Change the
Kenny's
world.
always been doing different things. He brought the ladder match into New Japan. And, their whole thing is to change the world. He's trying to change the norm. So in that way, it does kind of make sense with Kenny, bringing in another Western idea and bringing in a triple threat. But yeah, there was a lot of controversy behind that. Like I mentioned, a lot of the Gatekeeper fans were not fans, big fans of the fact that the IWGP titles are being defended in a triple threat. I mean, there's only been 2 times the IWGP titles have been defended in a triple threat. So it's a very rare thing, and a lot of people weren't into it.
It's interesting to me because so much of the chatter as of recently, I would say this year's been huge for non-WWE wrestling, right? All In happened and it was a massive success. Ring of Honor and New Japan together got into the Garden, on WrestleMania weekend. Like it's been a huge year for wrestling in general, but especially wrestling that is not WWE. So it's interesting to me that I think the Harold May and the Bushiroad people and people in the management kind of New Japan are realizing that we have to expand into America to really reach our apex as a company, right? But in doing that and trying to get new fans in America or maybe convert WWE fans, I think they're starting to understand we don't need to do everything that they do, but we have to kind of bridge the gap a little more, because they're like, I'm a perfect example. I pay attention to what they do, but I don't watch the shows all the time. But I'm more interested in New Japan right now than I have been outside of a Wrestle Kingdom time in a good little while because they're doing things that are catching my attention. The Bullet Club storyline has caught my attention. The new guy, we'll talk about that later, but Naito bringing in a new member of LIJ caught my attention. They're doing more of these Western style things, and like you said, I'm sure the gatekeepers don't like it because a diehard fan wants everything to be the way they've always had it. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you see it differently being a diehard, but I think this is nothing but good for New Japan.
I think there's a fine line you've got to walk, though, because you can't risk completely losing your identity as a company, because we've seen what has happened to indie companies that have. Yeah, great example. They had a thing, they had an identity, they had cultivated a good thing, and then they brought in Bischoff and Hogan and tried to be WWE light, and the bottom fell out.
And there's nothing wrong with some of the stuff they're doing, but at the end of the day, New Japan has this identity of being a more sports based product. It's more focused on the in-ring action and the wrestling, and a lot of people, a lot of Westerners are watching it because of that. Like, New Japan has a certain style. It's a distinct alternative to other companies. So that's what attracts fans. So it's like, don't change what your core audience likes because you're trying to expand. It's like, you should take what makes you New Japan and bring it to America and show those fans what you're all about. And then you can add in a little bit of westernization, a little bit of twist to hook, fans that have never watched before, or more, WWE fans, or, other, Impact fans, by, using familiar names, using stables, and, there's some stuff you can do without completely changing the identity.
Well, I'll tell you this. Everything you said is absolutely right, and I completely agree on 100 counts. But I think that right now we're rushing the gun, because right now the biggest complaints are there's a triple threat match that never happened, and the ladder match that happened 3 months ago, and there's a really, really long-term story that's Americanized. Like, by and large, most of the company is still pure New Japan style. I mean, like I said, I know I don't watch every show, but I don't think I'm too off base in saying that.
Right. And I don't think that New Japan has jumped off the cliff yet. I think there are a lot of gatekeeper fans that are like, oh my God, New Japan is dying. It's over. It's becoming, another Western promotion. I don't think it's gotten to that point yet.
But the possibility is there.
Yeah. And, the triple threat, honestly, at the end of the day, I enjoyed the triple threat. I thought it was a really good match. I know there are a lot of people who disagree with me. I thought they did a good job. Some of the elements in that match, telling the story, helping advance the story between Kenny and Kota. So I wasn't as down on the triple threat as a lot of people were. I mean, at the end of the day, I thought it was a good match. Dave rated it 4.25. It was the best match on the card. I thought
it was really random, though.
Well,
it was kind of random, and that's part of the problem. So, this year they've done more of these U.S. shows, and it's kind of thrown off their calendar and the way they booked. So normally a King of Pro Wrestling type show is usually a big show that's booked ahead of time. The card ahead of time, and it's set. This year, King of Pro Wrestling, they announced the card a week before the show. Everything was set up at Fighting Spirit Unleashed. So all these US shows are kind of happening in between these normal big shows, and it's kind of throwing off the booking because they can't announce certain matches for certain shows because they have to wait for the results of certain matches for it to make sense for the next show. And so I just think they need to do a better job of just booking these US shows a part of their calendar. These US shows are coming up now. Just fit it in with the calendar and make it float the storylines. I mean, for Fighting Spirit Unleashed, they waited, about a week before the show to announce all the matches. And the majority of those matches did not have implications why they could not have been announced. The main event was the Golden Lovers versus Ishii and Okada. There was nothing that happened on the Destruction Tour that would have stopped them from announcing that ahead of time and spoiling it. They could have announced that match ahead of time. And so when it comes to King of Pro Wrestling coming so quickly after Fighting Spirit Unleashed, it gave them such little time to build that card and to get a solid title match.
And I think, to go back to your point about the complaints about there being a long-term story, I don't think that's what people are complaining about, because New Japan has done long-term storytelling in the past. I think what people are complaining about is that, as much as I love the Bullet Club storyline in a lot of ways, it has become very convoluted. And it's gotten, it's starting to incorporate more and more of the roster, and it's just become this like clusterfuck of a story that doesn't have a clear direction of where it's going. And I think that's why people are upset about it. Sure.
So it definitely is convoluted, but the thing I appreciate about what they've done is the subtlety, because Dominion is when the split happened, right?
No,
are you talking about the original split, or are you talking about
jumped the Elite? That was Dominion.
No,
right?
that was at the G1 special in San Francisco.
The G1 special, yes. Okay, the G1 special. I'm sorry.
Yeah, US show.
So since then, other than the matches they had in the G1, they've largely stayed apart on the shows, which is why when they fought just recently, I believe it was at King of Pro Wrestling, either that or Fighting Spirit Unleashed, one of the two, where God faced the Bucks for the titles. That was the first time that they had gotten together, pretty much, like on a serious level, outside of a random 6-man or something. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think you're wrong, but I think that could potentially be part of the problem. As you've been talking about it, and as like I've been thinking about it, I realized what the OGs lacked, and the reason that they needed Switchblade to like join in on their side, is that the OG squad lacked a main event level leader. Because Tama Tonga is great, and as a tag team, GOD are great, but Tama Tonga is not IWGP champion.
Even if he was, they wouldn't push him. So, but yeah.
And I think another issue too is, so you had the big turn at G1 special in San Francisco, but they didn't really follow it up that much. Like that was like the hottest angle. Everybody was talking about it, but they didn't really follow it up. You know, so they had that show, and then you roll into the G1, and you had some stuff. You had some stuff with Tama. He's in the same block as Kenny, and then Bad Luck Fale was in the same block as Hangman Page, and so there was a little bit of stuff, but there wasn't much. And then you get that big one-on-one match with Tama and Kenny. You know, the opportunity to put Tama over, and they just had. And I think that was like a DQ match, or Kenny won. I forget now, but that was the opportunity to elevate Tama, and they did it, and so it just kind of fell flat after that.
No, you're right. So yes, I can see that being the problem, that it's been such a slow burn, if you will. I can see that being an issue, but I appreciate the subtlety in that. Largely, you said at the beginning, you want it to be two separate stables. They've essentially treated it as two separate stables, with the exception of when they come out, the splash screen says Bullet Club.
Right.
They've essentially treated them like they're two different people, two different groups. I mean, I want to get to Cody in a second, but I want to kind of put a bow on the Switchblade thing. One, do you think the Switchblade Okada feud is because I enjoy that. I think it's a really good feud. Do you think that is something that can be worthy of one of the main events in the Dome? And two, as much as I like Switchblade joining the Bullet Club OGs, or the Firing Squad, whatever you want to call them, I am a bit disappointed that we didn't get to see the inner battle of chaos and see people how to take sides. Goto and Ishii and Yano and Sho and Yo, and so many people have to take sides. Now that he's gone, everybody's still rocking with Okada. So what do you think about that?
All right, so your first question, I do think that the direction is going to be Okada versus Jay White as one of the big matches for the Tokyo Dome. You know, that big turn with Gato, and now Switchblade's a part of the Bullet Club. So there's a lot of momentum going into that, and I definitely think that's going to be one of the big matches. Now, as far as, Switchblade, not, getting more chaos guys with him, I think the issue is, you need some guys that are going to be babyface still. And, you already have like the Bullet Club OG. They needed something. They needed a spark. Mm-hmm. They added Taiji Ishimori, but they still needed something else. And so I'm sure a lot of those chaos guys are going to end up in different matches come Wrestle Kingdom time. And here's the thing we got to think about: like, none of the chaos guys came to save Okada when he was getting beat down on Monday.
Yeah.
So it could be that they're like, forget it. We're done with all this, drama. So, Ishii, Goto, Best Friends, or Punky 3K, all those guys technically could be done with Chaos and going off to do their own things. We have no idea because none of them came, because, Chaos is like the worst stable when it comes to helping people when they're getting jumped. So
Chaos is not the worst stable. Taguchi Japan is the worst stable.
Well, Taguchi Japan, it's kind of like a joke stable. It's not even like
that's why they're the worst.
but this is the first time that Kyle's acknowledged they are a stable. I'm very happy he's done that much at least.
They barely count.
Yeah, they're like
they have Kushida. They have Kushida and Tanahashi.
No, that's not what I mean by they barely count. I love most of the people that are in Taguchi Japan, but as a stable, Taguchi Japan barely counts.
You're right. You're right. So I do want to talk about Cody because at I believe it was at the Fighting Spirit Elite show, Cody defeated Juice Robinson for the IWGP United States Championship.
Yep.
And then he went straight into the triple threat with that. But he is concurrently 1/3 of the Ring of Honor 6-man tag champs or trios champs, whatever you want to call them. He is the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, and he is the United States Champion for New Japan, IWGP United States Champion. So my man is holding a lot of gold.
Poor Juice.
Yeah. So number one, what's up with Juice? Where are we going with Juice? Because Juice, I don't believe in this word. I don't believe in it because I hate saying a wrestler organically got over because you can't organically get over if the company's not putting you in a situation to do that. So this company had a part in it, but Juice got organically over. If anybody did. So where are we going with Juice, and what is the goal with Cody going towards Wrestle Kingdom? Because he's got too much gold to just kind of be in a whatever match.
So with Juice, and here's one of the things I did not like with the booking this year. They've done a great job of building Juice up and having him be this underdog babyface and, scratching and clawing to try and get big wins, and then it all leads up to him finally getting his big win and beating Switchblade Jay White and San Francisco for the U.S. title, and then they kind of just drop the ball with him. He goes into the G1 and loses majority of his matches, and then he just drops the belt to Cody in his first defense. So it's like, why were you building him up this whole time if you were just going to have him drop the belt so quickly? So I don't really understand the storytelling there. I'm not a big fan of that. I really feel like they should have given Juice some more defenses. And like my idea with Juice is since he lost all those matches in the G1, he should have defended the belt against all those guys and have him be the underdog champion. Like every title match, you're like, oh, there's no way Juice is retaining the title after this. And then you just have him, get his win back on all these guys and, build up a little bit of a title run before switching the belt.
I'm with that. I love that. I think Juice is a tremendous asset to that company. I think Juice has proven to the Japanese fans he belongs, which is one of the hardest things to do for a Gaijin. I said it correct this time.
Yeah.
To do.
And so
I noticed.
So going forward with Juice, I mean, it looks like the next thing for him is he's probably going to be in World Tag League next month, teaming with probably David Finlay. And then after that, I'm not sure. I mean, there's potential of him, having a rematch with Cody at the Tokyo Dome. So yeah, I would hope that he ends up in a rematch with Cody. If not, he could just wind up in the Never 6-man tag gauntlet. So I'm hoping it's the one-on-one match with Cody.
That would be a travesty.
So what it would be like Juice, Finlay, and Hanare?
Probably, yeah.
Oh, that would be a travesty.
Well, but I mean, like as we've learned, we all grew up, so we're all American, we're all born and raised here, so we all grew up on WWE. So we know that when the big shows come, there's gonna be somebody left out. It's always somebody left out. We know this. It would suck for it to be Juice, but would you rather it be Juice or would you rather it be somebody higher on the card?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
I'm used to Michael Elgin being the one who gets left out.
Michael Elgin's gonna be lucky.
We were just going to continue.
He's gonna be lucky if he's on the card, not in the New Japan Rumble, or he might fight for the never openweight title.
Sometimes it amazes me how Big Mike has managed to keep his contract with that company.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Elgin's another guy. You want to talk about weird booking this year. He's a guy that, he re-signed with New Japan and you're expecting him to get a push. He beat Ishii in that first round of the New Japan Cup and you're like, oh, okay, they're going with Elgin. And then he loses and then he just winds up in all these, undercard 6-man, 8-man, 10-man tags. And then, he won the never openweight title from Goto, but then dropped it right back the next show. So it's like they're really...
When you're losing matches to Goto, you know you have done something wrong with your life.
Goto beat Suzuki, so he ain't just no trash dude.
Oh no, he is trash. He's just not booked like that.
Goto's not trash. The issue with Goto is he wrestles to the level of his opponent. So he's in there with a guy like Suzuki. He knows he has to, go all out. Somebody like Michael Elgin, he's probably not going to go as hard as he probably could go. And even worse, if he's wrestling a guy like Taichi, he's definitely going to mail it in. So it's just Goto. Like he has the capability of having banger after banger, but he just doesn't always put forth that effort.
So I want to ask you. I'm just rapid fire questions. Sorry, man, but so I was a bit disappointed about Shingo. What's the name?
Shingo Takagi.
Shingo Takagi. I do not doubt that this man is a tremendous wrestler. I bet he's amazing. I believe he was one of the top guys in Dragon Gate for a good while. And they needed another junior. I think he might be tremendous. But the way it was built up made, I think, the fan base and a lot of fans think it was going to be somebody of real name value. Well, how did you feel about that being the person?
If you watch Japanese wrestling, Shingo Takagi is a
you're right. But again, we spent a big portion of this pod talking about the global expansion and the westernization of New Japan. Most of us over here don't know who he is.
Absolutely, but we've also been talking about how it's important not to lose your identity, and LIJ as a stable is
and also
Japanese.
Too, we got to think about Rance, like Japan is still like the key audience, the target audience, the target market. So bringing in Shingo, that's a name that all Japanese fans recognize. And when he came out, he got a huge pop, and everybody was into him. And it's a big deal for him to leave Dragon Gate and come to New Japan. So go ahead, Kyle.
And by the way, if you're not watching the shows and haven't been paying attention, when they are in Japan, LIJ is the most overstable in Japan.
Look. I think it's been very, very well publicized. My love affair for Naito and my hatred for how he's been treated all year. So, I mean, think about this. Realistically, Jeremy, we could have this entire conversation. We could have a 2-hour podcast talking about everything going on in New Japan and not mention Naito once right now. That's disgusting.
So Naito, he has had some questionable booking this year. But, I mean, he's still kind of been there. I mean, he's been having, IC matches with Suzuki. He had the Jericho match. Right now he's getting ready to have a big match with Zack Sabre. So, I mean, he's still kind of been there. He's not been in, like, the heavyweight title picture or, the main event. But, some of his booking has been questionable. I mean, but he's still over, though. And like Kyle mentioned, LIJ, they are some of the most popular guys on the roster right now. They love Naito. They love Evil. They love Sonata. They love Hiromu. They love Bushi. And they love Shingo, so now he's a part of the group. I wouldn't worry about Naito just yet. I mean, I think they know how important Naito is to their company, and I think eventually Naito's going to find its way back into the title picture.
Relevancy is a real thing in wrestling, and I feel like he's lost his relevancy. That doesn't mean he's not over. Somebody in our Wrestling Square Circle Facebook group called him, and I know people want to make comparisons. People want to compare every single grain of hair. I realize it's not a perfect comparison, but somebody called him Finn Balor, and I think that's a perfect encapsulation of the situation. Finn is over as shit, but Finn hasn't done anything of note. You can't name 3 real feuds he's had.
Right. And we're about to have some westernization right now. We have a run-in from the young boy.
Oh, what's up, Josh?
Oh shit.
Yo, so I listened to the last episode of Outsider's Edge, and y'all said you had to have the young boy on.
Yes.
And then I hear y'all hit up Jeremy instead. What's that about?
So, okay, well, Jeremy will give you a different answer than I will. but
And I won't give you an answer at all.
Yes, this was my decision. Hop on, jump on with the rest of the pod with us. But the reason I asked Jeremy,
I can't jump on. I can't jump on for the rest of the podcast. I would love to.
well, if you want to, by all means. But the reason I asked Jeremy on is because we've never had him on before. And I didn't want to have you on every time, and Jeremy's never on the pod. I just think that was fair to never have him on at once. Like, we had the opportunity.
You want to give him some shine.
Yeah, Jeremy's my guy, man. He's Mr. Social Suplex. He's my dude. I want to give him an opportunity to talk to him and get his ideas, because you're my wrestling dictionary anyway.
We didn't want him to think we thought he was the Genetti.
Perfectly put.
I mean, dude, being the Genetti's a great thing. He was better than Sean.
You're talking
yeah, but his paychecks aren't better than Sean.
Ooh,
that's true.
Genetti's not being called to wrestle in Saudi Arabia right now.
But I've been listening. I've been listening to the show, and I wanted to point something out, something that I thought was interesting. How, Rance, you were talking about, the Western storylines, some of the things that they've been doing that really have been catching your attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, you're lamenting the fact that they haven't pushed Naito this year and the questionable booking of him. And I feel like it's very coincidental that this group, this fan base, the majority of New Japan fans, the ones who are like gatekeeperish and traditionalists and loyalists, the ones who are lamenting this Bullet Club storyline, there's a cross section where those are the same fans who want Naito to be pushed. They're the ones who don't want this Bullet Club stuff, because the fact that they've been pushing Kenny and the fact that they've been pushing this whole chaos and stuff is why LIJ and why Naito specifically has had to take a back seat. And I just want to get your thoughts on that, because I feel like you can't have it both ways, where you have Naito at the top getting pushed, but then you also have this Bullet Club be at the forefront. You know what I mean? Because it's like one or the other, the way they've had it.
I think you're right, actually. That's a great point, because I feel like you're dead on in that the same people who. So there's definitely a real issue with the gatekeepers and diehard New Japan fans and the non-Japanese wrestlers kind of getting pushed over the Japanese mainstays. And I just said just a minute ago, like, when you have big shows and things of this nature, somebody always gets left out. And it sucks that it happened to be Naito this year, but I think my biggest issue with the Naito situation isn't that he lost. Yes, I hate he lost to Wrestle Kingdom. I will hate that until life is over. But it's not just Wrestle Kingdom. He lost to Wrestle Kingdom. He had a lackluster feud with Suzuki. He got squashed by Jericho at Dominion and hasn't done anything of real note since then. So it's not just that he missed it. It's not just that he lost this match. It's that he's not even really in the forefront anymore. I mean, Evil's the guy who's going to get the title shot from Jericho, and Evil is the lieutenant.
Well, now
the worst wrestler in the stable.
They're getting ready.
You're probably right about that.
I don't know, man. I think Bushi might be more entertaining than Evil.
Well, Evil has everything else,
but he can't go as well as Evil can. I don't think, personally, anyways.
But Rance, for Naito, I think that this building into Wrestle Kingdom, honestly, I think how everything's laid out, I think it's going to be him and Jericho again at Wrestle Kingdom, and he's going to get his big win back. So I think he's facing Zack Sabre next month at Power Struggle, and the big story there is, Sabre has beat him twice this year. So for him to beat Sabre, that's going to be a big win, and I think that's going to catapult him into facing Jericho at Wrestle Kingdom, get that big win there, and then I could see him winning New Japan Cup or doing something big at MSG.
Yeah, I think my problem, and this is something that's interesting, I've loved the angles that they've ran with the Bullet Club, with Kenny getting jumped by Cody and the Tongans. I loved that stuff, but I have not loved the follow-up to it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Naito. I think that Naito losing at Wrestle Kingdom was the right way to go, but the follow-up to it has been lackluster. And so I think some of the booking, I don't think necessarily the booking decisions in and of themselves have been bad, but the follow-up and the long-term build has been the problem.
I can accept that. I can definitely accept that because I acknowledge that my issue with Naito losing at Wrestle Kingdom is a personal one because he was I guess he still is my favorite New Japan wrestler, but I can accept the story if he did something of note, or you know what I'm saying, or like you said, the follow up worked. It just hasn't. Um, but I really I want to go back to what you were saying about the whole Bullet Club OG thing and the kind of dichotomy between the traditional Japanese guys and these new school guys. Do you think that the roster has a problem? Like, because and let me kind of expound on that a bit more. I realize it's a work, but the whole Tanahashi Kenny feud has been built around you're new school doing different things. I'm old school Japan. You're coming in here wrestling a different style that isn't what we do. And you know what I'm saying? And Kenny's like, you're old, you're antiquated, I'm new. So do you think that matched with Harold May and the westernization and the global expansion, that like the traditional Japanese wrestlers may have a problem with some of the new school guys and the new school ideas, and not just the fans?
Well, this a few days ago, Taichi put out a tweet talking about Gaijins getting more opportunities than the Japanese talent. So I don't know if that was him shooting or setting up his story, like his match with Will Ospreay. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are some, mainstays, Japanese guys that are kind of frustrated with Gaijins being pushed to the forefront right now.
Well, I mean, we talk about Kenny Omega and how dynamic he is, and he's everything that he's acclaimed to be, absolutely. But he talks about wanting to change the style, change the world, and bring something new to wrestling. But it's like, look who got this guy over, and look who his dance partners are. Who are his best dance partners? Okada, Naito, Ishii, Goto, Ibushi. Literally, it's the Japanese talent. Those are the guys who are getting him over, and they all wrestle that style that he's saying is so that like we're so entrenched in as diehard fans. We're like, he was saying like we've become like zombies or we're brainwashed. But it's like, nah, dude, you wrestle that style. When I see wrestle American guys like Cody or what have you, it's not the same caliber, the same level. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like he should pick a side and like, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, how much can you change wrestling at this point anyways? Like guys are doing everything that there is to do. It's like, what does he want to change to begin with? You know what I mean? Like you're already the best wrestler in the world, arguably speaking. So I mean, like what needs to change? Like you're putting on, 5-star match after 5-star match, 6-star match, 7-star match. So I mean, what are you trying to do different?
And I think I'm gonna let Kyle jump in here in a second, but I think Kenny is such a unique situation in the country of Japan because most of these gaijins who are in that company fly in to do their bid and then they go on somewhere else. Kenny lives in Japan. Kenny learned the language of Japan. Kenny is essentially with a Japanese person. So like he has truly entrenched himself in Japanese culture. Unlike
a couple of them,
yeah, right, and unlike a lot of the other guys. I mean, the Bucks are close, but the Bucks still wrestle. If they wrestle 20 dates in a year, they're wrestling 20 dates a month. They're wrestling 15 of them in America. So but Kenny, if Kenny comes to America, it's a big deal because he is a Japanese guy. So that's why I found it interesting that Tanahashi took issue with Kenny. Of all people, because Kenny's the most Americanized, the most Japaneseized, whatever the word I want to use, American or Canadian really out there.
He's Canadian, bro.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
I mean, for my money, my favorite Gaijin right now is Zack Sabre Time.
Yes.
Tap
out. It's a mission master.
Come over here.
Yes,
that's my favorite Gaijin.
Evil.
Oh yeah, like Taka's promo before that match before the jump zone was great, Everything isn't evil. Just tap out. That's
Yes, I love Taka and Saber together.
Zack Saber's got the secret sauce. Who'd have guessed that all these years later, Taka Michinoku was the secret sauce?
It goes to show you, man. Reinvent yourself, bro. You never know.
I mean, Kai and Tai always could make chicken salad out of chicken shit.
I'm gonna go here in a moment, but I just wanted to point out, the interesting thing with this feud between Kenny and Tanahashi. I don't know that I necessarily love that they started building it before they even had their deciding matches to set up the match. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, the stuff that they've said, I mean, we kind of touched on this on our last episode of Keeping It Strong Style, but we didn't really delve into it. The fact that there's such heavy overtones of a modern day Austin and Brett, or even Sean and Brett sort of dynamic, where you have Kenny, who's the most dynamic performer, kind of filling that Sean role. And then you have Tanahashi, who's the best storyteller in the entire company. He stands for the traditional values, and he's the storyteller, and like he's this old guard, kind of like Brett, or the fact that, Omega wants to bring change and a different attitude, and he does kind of, not saying he's Stone Cold, but in a sense does fill that new generation role that Stone Cold filled. And it's very, very interesting how they've kind of dived into that. And I'm hoping that that's the way that the storytelling goes as they continue this feud, because right now I don't know necessarily how much hype there is. I think for diehards there's hype, but I don't know how much anticipation there is really. But I feel like they have a lot of room where if they decide to go that route, they could really make this into something like that can last generations, lifetimes. We could be talking about this 10 years from now. You know what I mean?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because one of the things I told Jeremy I wanted him to do was to sell me, the casual fan, on why I should care about Kenny Omega versus Hiroshi Tanahashi in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom. Because right now, I know it'll be a great match. I understand that. I don't care right now.
Well, before he starts, thank you guys for letting me do a Gato run-in. Next time, call the Big Star. And I'll talk to you guys again later.
All right, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, man.
But yeah, so Omega Tanahashi, here's the thing. The whole westernization kind of even plays into this matchup. So you have Kenny Omega. He, finally wins the IWGP title. He's trying to change the world. A lot of his ideas are, Western ideas. He wants to do more triple threat matches. He wants to involve, more ladders, more Western style, stuff. So he's kind of represents this new change that's kind of happening in New Japan. And then you have Tanahashi, the guy that literally saved New Japan from the dark days. The guy that, respects tradition. He came through the dojo, multi-time IWGP champions. The fans still love him. And you just have these two clashing, ideologies. And, Tanahashi, he's, criticized the way Omega wrestles, and Omega criticized the way Tanahashi wrestles. So you have these two different philosophies and how they both think things should be in New Japan. Tanahashi kind of represents the gatekeepers, and, New Japan needs to stay the way it is and how it's always been. And then you have Kenny representing, the westernization, Harold May, if you want to say, and bringing in new ideas and wanting to expand. So you're just having these two clashing, ideologies come together. Who is the better wrestler? Who does have the better, mindset on what New Japan should be? It's almost like a battle for the future of the company. If Kenny wins, then it's almost like New Japan is going to go in the more Western direction. But if Tanahashi wins, then things are going to start going back to the way they were and the way the diehard New Japans want things to be.
I think it's a good example of how lately wrestling has gone meta.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, they're using, outside storytelling elements and bring it into this story.
So,
and not to mention,
go ahead.
These guys, they're two of the best, wrestlers on the roster right now. So besides the story, I mean, this is going to be a phenomenal match. And the fact that this match, they haven't wrestled each other one-on-one. I think it's been like 2 or 3 years since they've had a one-on-one match. So this match has been saved. It's been protected. It feels fresh. So there's just so many elements going into it that's going to make it a great main event.
So that's definitely the one constant. I think we all know that we're in for something that's going to be a spectacle in ring. But my question to you is, what you just said sold me, but have they said that on TV?
I don't think they've come out directly and said that. I think they kind of want you to infer that. And so they've been doing a lot of, media promos with each other, bashing each other, the way they wrestle, Tanahashi, and even Okada has gotten into this saying, when New Japan comes to America, they need to present a full New Japan show and not try to, have all these Gaijins on here and make it, a Western version.
Can I say that I appreciate that criticism? Because when I watch some of the American shows, I'm just like, yo, I love SCU. Don't get me wrong. But why the fuck is SCU on my New Japan show?
So yeah, there was a lot of criticism about Fighting Spirit Unleashed. You had SCU on there. You had Flip Gordon, Chris Sabin, ACH, Jeff Cobb.
I can even let those three slide, though, because at least those three I'll see in Super Juniors. We'd be seeing, like, if it wasn't for the fact that they're both on the Jericho Cruise, Flip and Marty would have probably been a team for Junior Tag League. Like, I can accept those guys because at least they're there sometimes.
They're associated with it.
But like Jeff Cobb, SCU, some of those other guys, I'm just like, y'all are never actually here. You're just here because we're in the States.
And so, and I think so they're doing a lot of storytelling with these interviews that they're doing. That they had the press conference the other day. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I'm sure there was stuff in the press conference of stuff they said going back and forth. And as we build into Wrestle Kingdom, they're going to be facing each other in tag matches, and there's going to be more promos. And I think more and more that whole thing that I explained to you is going to come out with the two battling philosophies, and the westernization versus traditionalist. So I think it's going to come out. I mean, it's only October right now, and this match is not until January. Yeah. And I think too, Rance, more of the diehard fans like me, we're watching all of like the English promos they put up. We're watching the press conferences. We're hearing all the interviews. So we're kind of picking up more of that story. As far as a casual person that's not watching everything, they might miss that initially.
And speaking of that, can I say that if I have one enduring criticism of New Japan right now, as they continue to make their efforts to do this big expansion, if I'm watching the shows in the English commentary, and I know you've got an English fucking YouTube channel where you put English subtitles on all your shit, why am I still watching these promos in characters? I can't read that shit.
Oh, you're talking about like the promo videos, the VTRs?
Yeah, like when I watch them on the actual shows, it frustrates me because I've seen the English language version, and I'm like, I'm watching the English language commentary. Don't you think I also want the English subtitled version of this video package?
Right. I think it might be a technology issue. Maybe they haven't figured out how to.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely a growing pains thing, and it's a nitpicky thing to be harping on, but it does frustrate me sometimes.
I mean, it's a big deal to somebody who wants to engage in a company that's not Americanized. Sure. You want to enjoy something, but you want to be able to understand what the hell is going on. We here on the Edge. I want to continue to always reiterate: we support what we want to watch. I have signed up for the past 3 or 4 years, every year in December through February, March, whatever, to watch Wrestle Kingdom. I watch it every year. I try to watch it live if I can. I catch when I do, but I buy it every year because I support it. I want to see it. I enjoy it. And much like Kyle just said, one of my annoyances is before the big matches, they have those really, really intricate promo videos. I don't understand anything that's going on. Yeah. And I would love to get hyped with the rest of the crowd and watching. And I understand you can't in live time dub English voice, but you could give me, on the English feed, you could give me the subtitles.
Yeah, and I guess like that hasn't been as a big deal for me. Like I definitely would like to have like an English version of the promo videos, but when I first started watching New Japan, majority of the shows were Japanese commentary. So I've kind of gotten used to like seeing the Japanese promo videos. So that hasn't been a huge deal for me, but I would like them to eventually, if you're watching the English feed, they somehow find a way to transition to the English version of the promo video.
Okay. I think I'd be remiss and Kyle would be upset with me if I didn't ask what's the deal with Kota. Where are we going with Kota Ibushi?
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff with Kota Ibushi. And, a lot of people I think they want him to be higher up on the card than he is, and there are a lot of people that are frustrated that he's kind of attached to Kenny Omega and can't seem to do anything that's not involving Kenny.
Gotta sign a contract.
Right? Yeah. The main issue. Main issue is he refuses to sign a contract. So there's only so far you can push him. But the direction it looks like they're going, in the Destruction Tours in September, they teased a one-on-one match with Ospreay and Ibushi, and a lot of people are wondering like how would that happen? Well, Ospreay pinned Taichi in a 6-man tag on King of Pro Wrestling, which has earned him a shot at the Never Openweight title. So next month at Power Struggle, Ospreay will be challenging Taichi. And so what I think is going to happen is Ospreay is going to beat Taichi, win the Never Openweight title, and then challenge Ibushi for the Never, for him to be or Ibushi come out and challenge him, and that sets up Ospreay versus Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom for the Never Openweight title.
Talk about show stealing match.
Yeah, that's good.
My God, for that belt, my God.
Yeah. That belt outkicked its coverage if the Wrestle Kingdom matchup is Will Ospreay versus Kota.
Yeah. So essentially, that belt is Jermaine Dupri, and that match is Janet Jackson.
And you're just like, how did that get that?
Right. And it's one of those things with the Never belt. It's the guy who makes the belt, and not the belt who makes the guy. So a guy like Taichi who has a belt right now, he's not that great. So it kind of brings down the value of the Never title. But if you have guys like Ospreay and Ibushi holding it, that definitely brings the value up of the title. And I know there are some people who want Ibushi to be in the Wrestle Kingdom main event or the semi-main event this year, and think it's a step down for him. But if you look back at his last few Wrestle Kingdoms, this Never Openweight title match is actually a step up for him. So if you look back at Wrestle Kingdom 12, he had a singles match with Cody that was earlier on in the card. Wrestle Kingdom 11, he was under a mask as Tiger Mask W, facing ACH under a mask as Tiger the Dark. Then you go to Wrestle Kingdom 10, he wasn't on the card at all. So the last 3 Wrestle Kingdoms, he hasn't had the best position or wasn't there at all. So this Never Openweight title match is usually like the 6th or 7th match on the card. So he's deep on the card, he has a title match. So it is kind of an elevated position from the last few Wrestle Kingdoms.
Can I want to kind of go off on a tangent real quick?
Go ahead.
Tama Tonga just tweeted out some tweets concerning what we just talked about with the global expansion and the article that came out today, and it's relevant to what we've been talking about. I want to read them real quick to you if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I anxiously await these tweets.
Funny reading that a lot of foreign performers are complaining that the work atmosphere not being quote-unquote fun in New Japan. What a load of shit. Plenty of great talents out there that would be grateful to have an opportunity to work in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Who fed you those lies, Meltzer? New president and management helping the company gain sponsorship with an international expansion. What a time to be part of New Japan. Traveling, big money, company growing. Yeah, bitch. Us foreigners that have been here and worked our asses off are very proud of how far we've come. So to the foreigner or foreigners complaining to Dave Meltzer that they are not having fun, you can get the fuck out. GTFO. I've never in my career here in New Japan have ever heard of a Japanese wrestler complaining about the work atmosphere not being fun in New Japan. Get the fuck out of here. What that tells me is that it's a real thing. I feel it's real. And I realize I could be worked. I completely acknowledge that I could be worked right now. But I think there might be a real issue between the traditional Japanese wrestlers and the Gaijins.
Yeah, I mean it's completely possible, and the one thing that young boy and I were talking about, we get all these backstage reports and Dave reports all this stuff, but at the end of the day, we're not backstage. Dave is not backstage. We don't know 100% what's really happening backstage. We don't know who the wrestlers are, if there is anybody that's actually complaining. So that's the one kind of thing you got to hold on to. But it is possible that there could be an issue. And, Tama Tonga, he's a very controversial guy and will do whatever it takes to, keep his name relevant and to kind of, stir the straw. And so with him hearing what Meltzer reported, that's an easy topic for him to jump in on.
Kyle?
I mean, I don't really know what to make of anything that Tama Tonga does, because Tama Tonga does whatever the fuck he wants because he is the road dog of his stable. And I do not mean that in an insulting way. A lot of people will think that's an insult. That is not a fucking insult. Road Dogg and Badass Billy Gunn were the top merchandise sellers during the height of the DX era. So, that is not a fucking insult at all.
I do find it funny that he's kind of sticking up for Harold May when on camera he's been kind of disrespecting him, throwing the titles down, and kind of being this renegade character. So
that's why I feel it's real.
So that can play into the fact that there is some kind of issue here.
He plays that character, but he and the Tongans in general come off to me as through and through company men.
Oh yeah. They have jobs for lives if they want to.
Well, and that's what I mean though. On screen he does that whole antagonizing towards my shit and thrusting his crotch at the camera and all that shit. He does that, but they're company guys. Those tweets came off to me as I've been the foreigner backstage for a decade now. And if you've got a problem with the way things are going when we're making more money than we were 10 years ago, you can kiss my ass.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah. I don't know if you have anything else, New Japan. I want to talk. I have one more thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. And Kyle, if you have anything, please, my brother, jump in. But let's talk juniors for a second. Where are we going? Kushida just beat Marty Scurll to win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship for the fifth time? Fourth time?
I think sixth time.
Yeah.
And praise be Kushida. More Kushida, please. Thank you.
We here at the Edge are huge Kushida fans. We here at the Edge believe Kushida could actually be a top guy in the heavyweight division.
Oh yeah, and I agree with that. I love Kushida, and this is a guy. Kushida wrestles in Ring of Honor. He does a lot of stuff in Rev Pro in the UK. He'll go to Mexico, and he wrestles heavyweight division when he's in those companies, and he's a phenomenal wrestler. I mean, they call him the ace of the juniors. He's like the mini Tanahashi of the junior division, and at the end of the day, he's going to go down as one of the greatest juniors of all time. I mean, he's right underneath Jushin Thunder Liger with title reigns. So he's definitely an impressive guy. It just stinks the way they book him sometimes. Either they completely push him or they kind of just forget about him.
He
even mentions it in his backstage promos. He'll say, I feel like I haven't done anything this year. I really need to do something this year. So I was happy to see, Kushida winning the junior title, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with him. The junior title picture has not really been as clear as what's going to happen at Wrestle Kingdom with Kushida winning the belt. My guess would be possibly Taiji Ishimori being the guy to challenge him at Wrestle Kingdom. It's also possible that they do another multi-man match like they did last year, like a Fatal 4-Way or a Triple Threat.
Right.
So,
well, New Japan doesn't do this often, but Kushida winning feels hella transitional.
Well, but it's also a desperation move because nobody expected Hiromu to break his neck so badly that he's going to miss a year of action.
Right.
Yes, it feels transitional, but that's because it was a completely blindside transition forced on them by a really tragic situation.
Sure, but real quick, Jeremy and Kyle, what I mean is, if Scurll would have won the belt, I can see Scurll holding it for 5, 6, 7 more months. I don't legitimately don't see Kushida holding this until Wrestle Kingdom, and I know that's dumb as hell, but it feels mad. This feels almost like this is a terrible that would be a terrible example. I didn't want to go there.
Well,
I was gonna say it feels like when Ray won the title when Punk left, and then he faced Cena later on that night and lost. Like that's way too far, but it feels like at the what's the next show?
Yeah.
Power Struggle. It's gone. He's losing it.
Well, before I let Jeremy chime in, because like he's definitely the expert. I'm a consistent watcher, but I cede expert status to Jeremy for sure. I don't think it feels as transitional as you might think, because like the junior situation is not as stable at the championship level as you might think. Like,
you're right.
Ospreay is probably going to face Taichi. Oh, he is facing Taichi, and he's probably going to win the Never title. And there have been rumors about, him maybe going heavyweight in the not too distant future.
Which he better not go heavyweight before Kushida does. I'm just
saying. Then there's Marty, and Marty just lost the title to Hiromu. So like, no, he didn't. He lost the title to Ospreay. But either way, Marty just lost the title after having it for quite a while. So I didn't really expect him to win it. And then outside of those four, outside of Kushida, Ospreay, and Marty, you got
Ishimori.
crickets.
Ishimori.
Well, you got Ishimori, but Ishimori is still newer.
Sure.
To the junior division. Like, he came back as Bone Soldier. So, like, there's not a lot of guys in the singles division that are established and that are just, like, ready to take the belt that are in that position right now. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think with all the guys I had to choose from, Kushida was probably the best choice. And, I don't think it's going to... I mean, I can see Kushida holding it for a while, but I'm not quite sure what the plan is. So, as of right now, Kushida, he's gonna be in the Super Junior Tag League that starts on the 16th of this month. He's teaming up with Chris Sabin. And so right now it doesn't look like, with him being in that tournament, he's probably not going to defend the title at Power Struggle, because the finals of this tag league will happen at Power Struggle. And so kayfabe-wise, he's going to want to win this tournament and would hope to be in the finals at Power Struggle. Now, they could set something up, like if his team doesn't win, if somebody pins him in the tournament, maybe he defends against them at Power Struggle. But I'm not sure how likely that's going to be. And then after Power Struggle, we have the heavyweight tag tournament, the World Tag League. And so there probably won't be a junior title defense on any of those shows either. So right now, it looks pretty good for Kushida making it into Wrestle Kingdom as a champion.
Well, and that would be great, because again, I'm a Kushida fan, and Kushida and Ishimori, a possible match between those two would be a hell of a match. I would enjoy the hell out of that. So I'd be very, very happy to see that. It's just they don't treat Kushida well, so it's kind of hard to get built up and believe that this is real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they weren't so short on junior tags, I'd be ready for Roppongi 3K to split up so that Show could get pushed.
A lot of people thought Show was gonna be the guy to join LIJ.
Yeah, there was a rumor of both either Show or Yo joining LIJ. But when you think about it, it just didn't really make sense since Roppongi 3K was in the match.
It didn't make sense, but that would be the ultimate fuck you to Rocky Romero, to not only turn on his stable, but to join LIJ to team up with Bushi.
Yeah, Rocky hates Bushi.
That would be the ultimate fuck you to Rocky.
Okay, so let's. I mean, if you don't have anything else you want to talk about New Japan, Kyle, I want to put a bow on it and kind of.
I have one other question I want to ask, and this is just a straight up opinion question. I'm of the opinion that they need to just do away with the Intercontinental Belt, because Jericho ain't ever there any fucking way, and they've been like pushing the U.S. title to try to like make it mean something, and I think that they have too many belts. So, agree or disagree that they should get rid of one of those two?
I agree. I was kind of against them even creating the U.S. title. I don't think they needed another title And I mean, a lot of the reports are the whole reason why they haven't tried to get Jericho back more is because they wanted to keep the IC title off TV because they felt like they had too many titles. So at this point, I would consider maybe doing a unification of the IC and US titles.
Either that or just letting the title be retired. One or the other, because I'm with you. Like, too many mid-card belts.
However, though, with them doing more shows and more shows in the US, they could use that belt as if they put it on the right guy, as a belt that could main event shows and not having to be the world title match.
The thought process behind it, I believe, is much like NXT has a NXT champion, a UK champ, and then a North American champ. So essentially, their US shows, they don't have to fly Kenny in. They essentially, this is the goal, could main event those shows with the US guy. And then they could go to RevPro and essentially main event those shows with the IC guy. I think the idea is wonderful, but they have not put it into any good. They have not utilized it well at all. But I like the idea of it.
All right, cool. That was my only other question. So we can transition out however you'd like to do so.
Well, yeah. The last thing I guess to kind of put a bow on all of this. I want you guys to give me as best as you can. I'm sure that you don't have to give me a full 12 match card, but what do you think is the Wrestle Kingdom card gonna look like? Like we know one match for sure. We know it's gonna be Kenny and Tanahashi, because Tanahashi I don't think he has any more briefcase matches.
No.
Okay, and I think we can almost guarantee that it's gonna be Switchblade and Okada.
Yeah. And so along with those, I think we're going to get Ospreay Ibushi for the never openweight title. I think we're going to get Naito versus Jericho. I think we're going to title. Well, maybe or maybe not, because
Evil could win.
Right, because if Evil wins the belt, I see them doing Evil versus Zack Sabre Jr., because that was a match that went no contest when Jericho jumped Evil, and they've been building a story of with Evil not being able to beat Sabre. So I could see them doing an IC title match, Evil versus Sabre, or the IC title match, Naito and Jericho. I think the belt can go in either match, but I think they're still going to do both of those one-on-one matches, regardless where the belt is.
Okay.
And then, we'll probably have some, never 6-man tag gauntlet with a bunch of 6-man teams for the IWGP tag title match. It's going to be GOD against whoever the World Tag League winners are. And right now, maybe? I'm trying to... What'd you say?
The Bucks, maybe? You think then they have the rematch?
It could be the Bucks, but the Bucks are not in World Tag League this year. So if the Bucks end up in the match, it would be like a 3-way tag match. I see...
I could see him facing KES.
It could be KES, or it could... it can't be Sonata, Evil, and Sonata. Evil's in the match. Yeah, probably KES at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, they're short on tag teams.
Yeah, and then for the junior tag champs, I think Roppongi 3K will end up winning the junior tag league and facing Desperado and Kanemaru to finally beat those guys and get their belts back. And
I mean, Kyle, what do you think? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and of course, there's going to be like the New Japan Rumble.
Right. Which Cheeseburger is probably going to win finally this year after like 3 years of trying.
The crowd will go banana pancakes if Cheeseburger wins that match. They love them some cheeseburger in Japan.
What do you think, Kyle? Do you agree with that card? And then
I agree with most of those matches. Aside from that, I think we'll get a U.S. title match.
Cody and Juice.
I think it'll be Cody versus. They could take Juice. They could take Juice back and do Cody versus Juice. They could do. Honestly, that's the only one that really makes sense to me is them taking that back because I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Right, and another factor with Cody is the NWA title. So if Cody beats Aldis in a couple weeks, and keeps the belt, I could see New Japan wanting the NWA title to be defended at Wrestle Kingdom. So,
Oh yeah, I could see that.
And-
yeah.
Wait. I'm sorry. Isn't there a tradition now of, because of the working relationship, the Ring of Honor belt is defended?
sometimes.
Sometimes, but like Jay Lethal's not exactly got to put on the card guy.
But I mean, Jay Lethal, he has. I think it was Wrestle Kingdom 10 or 11. He defended the ROH title, and not every year, but most years that since the partnership, they've had the Ring of Honor title defended. And MSG is coming up, so it's probably possible that Jay Lethal, whoever the current champion is at Wrestle Kingdom time, will defend the belt at the Dome.
If it's Jay Lethal, I just need him to get rid of the lethal injection because I fucking hate that movie.
I don't like that movie either.
Oh god, it always looks so.
So
bad.
if you hate Jay Lethal's lethal injection, then you hate the Stormbreaker, right? Or whatever.
I am
whatever
not generally a fan of any kind of springboard move.
Okay.
Because, or not necessarily springboard, but like those back handspring moves, because they always look so fucking terrible on the setup. Like, it exposes how fake wrestling is.
You just stand there and look at the guy doing a full handspring.
Right.
Yeah. And then when he comes back, you just jump in the air miraculously so that he can hit the cutter.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
And I'm just like, no, this move sucks. The Oz cutter sucks. They both need to get rid of them.
That's the name of the move. You're right. Stormbreaker is the new move.
Yeah,
the legit one.
The
That's
neckbreaker gimmick,
one.
yeah.
I will tell you this. I got to tell you, Jeremy. I'm gonna buy Wrestle Kingdom regardless. But if that's the card, that's a damn good card.
Yeah. And that's why I don't get why a lot of fans are complaining about the direction. I'm like, Wrestle Kingdom looks great.
But Jeremy, I want New Japan to be the way it's always been, and they're not catering to my interests anymore.
Yeah. That's why I don't get it. Like, you can have your criticisms, but like Wrestle Kingdom 13 looks amazing based off the stories they're telling. So
I think a big part of it is, and again, this is just rants. I can't speak for anybody else. A big part of it was the initial disappointment of Tanahashi and Omega. And again, no disrespect to the Ace, because I think he's tremendous. But number one, we all wanted Kenny and Kota. I think that's what most of us wanted. We know why, but I think most of us wanted. And number two, I just gotta be honest here. As tremendous as the Ace is, as legendary as he is, you said it perfectly. He saved them from the dark days and all this. He's a 7-time IWGP champ. Like, at this point, I think a lot of us wrestling fans, much like the complaints are in WWE, like, as good as you are, sometimes when you're at the top for that long, you kind of want to see something new. And Tanahashi fighting for a world title at the Dome is almost a guarantee every year. Has been for 6-7 years. I realize the U.S. title isn't necessarily a world title, but you get my drift, right? So, and again, I'm just speaking for Rance. Like, I know you probably feel differently. I think Kyle kind of is on my side a little bit, but no disrespect to Tanahashi, I just really was interested in seeing something different.
Well, Tanahashi's actually kind of been out of the title picture for a little bit. So, I mean, this past Wrestle Kingdom, he wrestled, Jay White in a non-title match. The year before that, I believe he was in the Intercontinental title match. And the year before that.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Let me flip it for you. I know that I know they're not the same. I understand that, but in the context of what I'm trying to say, I think you'll understand my point. If Cena won the Rumble and faced AJ or Roman, whoever's the world champ that he chooses, everybody would say, man, Cena's been here forever. I know 16 title reigns is way different than 7, but 7 IWGP Heavyweight Championship reigns is akin to 16 WWE title reigns.
But can I tell you why I think there's more backlash to the Tanahashi win, and it's not necessarily from that perspective?
Sure.
I think that the real backlash is, in a perfect world, Kota Ibushi would have won the G1, and we'd have done Kenny versus Kota 1-on-1 the Golden Lovers face off at Wrestle Kingdom. But Kota's stubborn ass won't sign a fucking contract, and so they weren't going to go with that. But I think that's why we're salty, because that's the best story.
And that would have been the rubber match.
Yeah, and it's like the story writes itself. It's so perfect. So like that's what everybody wanted, but we can't get that because Kota won't sign a fucking contract.
Yeah, and I can understand. Yes, Tanahashi has been multiple time champion. You kind of want to see something different, something new. But at the same time, Tanahashi is the guy they need to tell this story of like the westernization versus traditionalists. And there's like no better person to like represent like their traditional New Japan style than the guy that saved the company and the guy that's, so beloved by the crowd than Tanahashi.
Well, that story. So I openly acknowledge that the story you just explained to me and the way you pitched it to me, I'm with it now. Like, I'm not against it now, but I need to see this on TV and not just on Keepin' It Strong style. This needs to be the actual build to the match, because I always felt in the back of my mind that they just did this so they can put Kenny over Tanahashi and prove to the whole world that Kenny's the true top guy of New Japan now. He just had to run the gamut. But at least now I have a reason to want to see that.
Right. But however, I still think, I'm as of right now, I'm more in favor of Kenny probably retaining, but I still think there's a very good chance of Tanahashi winning the belt.
Well, that'd be a hell of a move.
And I think if they did that, then they would do Tanahashi versus Okada at MSG.
I think if they did that, then
I think Kenny
Omega
Omega's
would
leaving
be
anyway, but that's another conversation.
Else.
Yeah.
So what do you follow that, by the way? Do you think the elite?
How the Edge feels.
How do I feel about the elite guys leaving?
Yeah. Do you think they are leaving? And if they do leave, do you think they're leaving? And if they do leave, how would you feel as a diehard New Japan guy?
So if they do leave as a New Japan fan, like, yes, I'm going to miss them in New Japan. But, I still watch WWE and I watch NXT and I watch those shows. So I'm going to see them. It's just I hope that they would be booked correctly and, properly utilized in whatever show they end up on. And I know at the end of the day, it's a better payday, bigger exposure than they already have. And ultimately, it would be good for their careers. I would miss them in New Japan, but, I'd be happy to support them in WWE. But honestly, I do not think they're going right now. With the momentum of All In, with all the money they're making through Hot Topic, Pro Wrestling Tees, and just, they're coming out with their own children's books and all this stuff. Like, those guys are like such, almost like entrepreneur like spirit. Like, they're kind of doing their own thing. And I find it really hard for them to just kind of like drop this like freedom and drop this like kingdom they've kind of built over the last few years to go to WWE. Now, I'm not sure that they're going to re-sign with New Japan and Ring of Honor either. I actually think we might see something weird where they kind of like not create a new promotion, but like they're kind of like this group that multiple promotions can kind of book. So like they're kind of like their own like agency kind of thing. And so you want us like, you got to sign a contract to get all of us to show up at your certain promotion and we can work multiple promotions.
So they do like Cody did the year after he left WWE.
Yeah, kind of. Like I could see them like, working Ring of Honor, working Impact, working in New Japan, working all these kind of like top companies and not being tied down to an exclusive and being more controlling of their dates, and, doing more all-in type shows and kind of going in that direction.
I can't dispute any of that, and I'm not going to say that any of that doesn't make sense or is wrong, because all of that is perfectly plausible. The only thing I will say is if WWE wants them badly enough, WWE can match whatever the fuck they're making on that merch and whatever the fuck they're making on all of these other ventures and things that they're doing. Money is not an issue for a $1 billion company.
Yeah.
They can match that. So everything you're saying about the creative freedom, I totally get that. If they're like, nah, I have too much freedom to do whatever I want to do, and I want to write these books, and we want to do more of our own shows, and we want to continue to have this autonomy, totally understand that. But like, let's not pretend that money is going to be the factor.
And so, I mean, Vince keeping back the brink truck up, sign all those guys and bring them in. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do go. I mean, I'm sure they're all going to get offered a ton of money that would be kind of ridiculous to turn down. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do go, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they, end up staying or doing their own thing.
Oh, absolutely. No, that makes total sense.
Is this the biggest possible free agency since Razor and Diesel? Do you think?
Probably, yeah. I mean, especially because they've said that they're all sticking together, so and all their contracts are running up at the same time. So that would potentially them be bringing in Kenny, Young Bucks, Cody, Skrull, and Hangman Page all at the same time.
Well, and based on just the success of All In alone, like that show sold out and sold a lot of pay-per-views, and that in and of itself, I think makes those guys the biggest free agents since them.
Right.
And somebody listening is going to say, well, what about AJ and Shinsuke? Nobody was checking for AJ and Shinsuke the way they are these guys.
Nope. AJ was still like, we all knew about AJ because like the IWC been singing them praises, but like,
yeah.
Well, I think the thing with AJ and Nakamura, yes, those are big free agent signings, but it was one of those things where like you didn't expect either of those guys to leave. We've heard for years that Vince thought AJ was too small. He's too southern. He doesn't understand AJ Styles. So I've been watching TNA since it's pretty much started. I've ordered the weekly pay-per-views. I've watched AJ from the beginning. And so never in my wildest dreams as an AJ fan did I thought that he would actually sign to WWE. So that kind of like came out of nowhere. There was pretty much really no build of that. It was like he lost at Wrestle Kingdom. They jumped him at New Year's Dash. The rumor started. And next thing you know, he was in WWE because he was also negotiating with TNA at the time. Him and Karl Anderson and Luke Gallows were possibly going to go back to TNA, but then they worked things out with Triple H. So it was like AJ kind of came out of nowhere. And same thing with Nakamura. Like nobody would expect Nakamura to leave New Japan. So with the Elite guys, they've been very upfront with when their contracts end, and they're building it into the Being the Elite storyline with a countdown clock. So this is kind of a big anticipation. We know their contracts are up, and we know there's the potential for them to jump. So there's kind of a bigger anticipation of what they're going to do.
It's kind of like watching the NBA last year, knowing LeBron was going to be a free agent, and there's a chance he stays or he goes to LA. Like I get it. It's a real wait and see type deal. I guess before we get out of here, to try to talk a little WWE, what did you guys think of Super Showdown? I know Kyle didn't really watch it, but he did at least see the results in some of the clips.
I have one thing I want to spit a little fire on, and you already know what it is, but I got to spit it anyway. I have no interest in Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles. I have no interest in it. I do not care, and I love SmackDown Live, but I do not give a fuck about that match. And Samoa Joe is once again a victim of the problematic push of AJ Styles.
How can we fix that?
Somebody got to take the title off this motherfucker.
Will that be enough to fix it?
They've got to take the title off, and they've got to definitively win the feud. Because the problem with AJ right now is everybody faces him, and everybody pushes it to the limit, and then they fucking lose. They talk all that good shit, and then they fucking lose.
Yeah, I mean,
Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I love AJ Styles, and I'm happy. I'm happy he's having success. But I do think they've dropped the ball in a lot of his feuds this year. The Nakamura feud and the Samoa Joe feud, to be specific. And it was one of those. I mean, the Joe feud was built so great for making Joe this monster heel, and I really think they made a mistake by not putting the belt on Joe, even if they would have, flopped it back to AJ. I definitely think Joe should have got it. And even like the Nakamura feud, it was just like AJ just kept beating him and beating him and beating him. And it lowered the value of Nakamura.
Well, and in both of those feuds, the story being told by the heel was how much of a badass they were and how they were going to beat the shit out of AJ and blah, blah, blah. And then they didn't. And so then they look like fucking geeks who can't actually do what they say they're going to fucking do. And like you said, it devalues them. And it's been a problem in AJ's feuds for almost 2 years now.
Kevin Owens, Shane McMahon, Shinsuke Nakamura, Samoa Joe.
Yeah. But I will say I watched Super Showdown. I did not wake up in the morning to watch it.
Not like this idiot right here.
I did not wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. I woke up, I think like 9 or 10 o'clock and watched it then. But overall, I thought it was a good show. I really loved the Cruiserweight title match with Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander.
Shout out to Buddy Murphy for finally winning the belt.
And
shout out to Rance for saying Buddy Murphy was the man 2 years ago.
Yeah, but
I'm giving myself some
way
love.
deserved. He's real fire in the ring.
And even though we talked about the problem with AJ, I did really like the AJ Styles and Samoa Joe match. Thought the wrong guy won, but I thought
and that's the real issue. The problem with the AJ isn't that AJ's bad in the ring and that we hate watching him. It's that the wrong guy is winning the matches.
Because the match was fine.
Yeah, I enjoyed the match. And then the whole Triple H versus Undertaker thing. Ah man, they had all the smoke, all the mirrors.
Go away to all of them. Go away to all of them.
Yeah,
well, what did you think of that, Jeremy? Yeah.
So I thought they did the best they could with what they had to work with. Like we've clearly seen Undertaker is nowhere near his prime, and so they had
homie belongs in the old folks' home.
Yeah, I mean they tried their best with what they had to work with, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, are these guys? Do we really need to rely on these guys to be in the main event picture? And
well, okay, so that's, I'm glad you said that. That's where we're going to disagree. I want you to finish, but they're not relying on them to be
right. Or maybe not relying on them, because I mean they probably could have put anybody in the main event, but I don't know, man. It's like at this point, like, why do we still need these guys? And I am the biggest Shawn Michaels fan there is. I paid good money to meet him at WrestleCon this year. He's been my favorite wrestler since I was 3 years old, even when he was a heel. As a kid, I cheered when he threw Jannetty in the glass. I was live in Tampa at '95 when he won the Rumble. When Bulldog thought he won. So I love me some Shawn Michaels, and I will defend Shawn Michaels till the end. But I don't know if I really want to see him come out of retirement for this tag match.
That's how I feel about Kane. Like, growing up, Kane was one of my favorite wrestlers. Kane is still one of, if not my favorite big man of all time. I love Kane. I used to always get real upset as a kid when wrestling was still real to me, because Kane would get so close to the title and he'd never actually win it. But I don't need to see Glenn Jacobs anymore. Homie can stay mayor in Tennessee.
And I get that they want to have some nostalgia, bring back some guys from the past to draw in some casual fans. But at the end of the day, I feel like when you keep bringing in these part-timers, I feel like it hurts the full-time guys. And if they could have done this Triple H Undertaker match in the semi-main or earlier in the card, and put the Shield match on the main event, or give Roman a one-on-one match in the main event, I feel like the full-time guys, they need to be featured more. And there needs to be less emphasis on the part-timers.
So let me retort that real quick, because I was waiting for somebody to bring this up. We are spoiled as hell because we are born in America. So WWE comes to Tampa 3 times a year. They come to South Carolina twice a year. They come to Houston 4 times a year. I can see anybody I want whenever I want to. How often do they go to Australia? Maybe
Is it
once
like,
every 2 years.
yeah, something like that.
So
Infrequently enough that they did an interview with the Iconics after the show, and Billie Kay said she had met one of her nephews for the first time this year, or for this show, because she hadn't had the opportunity to go home
there you go.
since he had been born.
So we look at things from our vantage point, which is the only way we can. I'm not saying we're wrong for that. But so we're saying, oh, well, these guys are back and they're taking all the time away from these part-timers, from these full-timers. The Australian fans who the show was for are seeing these guys maybe for the first time in their life. And this is their heroes. The one point I've stood on the entire time is this. This story between Sean, Hunter, Kane, and Taker is not canon with the rest of the show. I understand they're promoting it on the main show, but they're not interacting with other people. This is contained in its own bubble. Much like if 205 Live was still having their one match of the show on Raw, that's in its own bubble. It has nothing to do with the rest of the show. If they start interacting with other people, then I will understand the criticisms. But this is contained and it's only happening on these shows that are for crowds that don't see these people, don't see them. So if the tag match between DX and Brothers of Destruction was happening at Survivor Series, I'm on the same boat as you guys. That's too much. It's happened. The match, Triple H Undertaker match happened at essentially a house show in Australia that was just televised, and the tag match is happening at essentially a house show in Saudi Arabia, if they still have it, which is just happened to be televised.
Yeah, that's a pretty tense situation they got going on.
We probably should have talked about that, but I don't know if I want to be controversial tonight.
All we got to do is say this. There's an incident with the death of a journalist in Saudi Arabia that the government may or may not have been involved in. And the company has said that they're monitoring that situation. How true that is, we don't know, because we can just go by the word that we're given. And so we don't know what the status is with that shit.
But it's real enough that they might not have the show.
No, that's what I meant by we don't know what the status is. Like, we don't know what the status of Crown Jewel is at this moment, because if it turns out that the Saudi government was involved in the death of a journalist, that's a real bad look for the company that they can't be dealing with.
And you kind of can't send your guys over there in confidence knowing they'll be all right. If they're killing journalists.
Especially considering part of your guys is a camera crew who are fucking journalists by trade.
Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely not a good look and not a good situation right now with that whole thing.
Not at all. And but you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Yep. You know what bed you're getting in when you get involved with that kind of a regime.
And I am mad at them for the money and the business perspective, but I understand everything that you are signing.
If you get in bed with the House of Saud, that's what you get.
That's what you get. But do you get my point about the match, about the tag match? I mean, I understand you might not agree with me, but do you understand where I'm coming from?
I understand. Yeah, I understand your point. I do disagree. I do feel like what they're doing is canon because it is on Raw. They're using airtime on Raw to promote this match, to have promos, to shoot angles. They're constantly advertising this match on both shows, and these big. We want to call them glorified house shows, but I mean, they're putting a lot of effort into these international shows. They're being aired on the network. They have fireworks. They have these big sets and stadiums. So to me, it does feel canon. I get that they're not interacting, with The Shield or Braun Strowman or any of these other guys, but I still think that it's kind of canon because the commentators, they build it up. There's several promos throughout the show, and at the end of the day, it's like
okay.
I'm fine with part-timers coming in if they can go. But at this point, Undertaker can't go. I think Triple H can still go, and if you put the right guy in there with him, Triple H can still have a good match. but I don't think Undertaker can still go. I think Kane is kind of, he's pretty much washed too. And then I have no idea. I mean, it's been forever since Sean wrestled. I mean, he was taking some good bumps out there, but I have no idea if he still has the same level that he was when he last left.
And even if he does, if Kane and Undertaker are both washed,
it's not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, Triple H is going to be the guy that's going to be having to like lead that match around. So
all I know is if they're going to continue to emphasize these foreign shows, I have no problem with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if they're going to continue to emphasize these foreign shows, I need them to cut some of these B pay-per-views. Because, I don't need 20 special events every year. That's a little too much.
I disagree with that again because this isn't for you. It isn't for you. It isn't for us. It is not made for. The goal of this show isn't for the American fans to enjoy specifically. It is a show that they are putting on for the Australians or for the Saudis or for these other companies, and they just have. Okay, let me flip it for you. Let me flip it for you. NXT UK just got announced today that their first day is going to be shown. Right? That's not for us, but we're going to watch it. It's going to be advertised, but that's not for us. The show specifically says NXT UK. That's not for us.
Yeah, but I think the difference is with that, it's like, yeah, that's NXT UK. It's airing, in prime time in the UK. And I'm sure there'll be a commercial.
No, it's airing primetime here.
No, it's airing prime.
No, it's airing primetime UK. It's airing 3 p.m. Eastern time here.
No, the press release I saw said it's
8 p.m. BST.
Yeah, trust
British
Rance. I made the same mistake earlier. I thought it was 8 p.m. our time, or my time. But yeah, I went back and read it. It's airing 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay, well, the show in Jeddah aired live their time. The show in Australia aired live their time.
But the point, that's not the point I'm even making. The point I'm making is, okay, I would buy that if it wasn't for the fact that the big event or the big matches in a lot of these shows are major title matches where they could air major title changes that I have to pay attention to if I care about the show.
There's no humanly possible way I could disagree with that more. Number one, the show we just had, with the exception of the Buddy Murphy match, which nobody was watching 205 anyway, if we're honest, all the main matches got redone the next night.
Shit, I didn't watch.
But all the major matches got redone the next night. Ronda and the Bellas versus Riot Squad, redone on Raw. Shield versus Dogs of War, redone on Raw. Charlotte versus Becky, redone on Raw.
But here's the thing, Rance. You say it's not for us, but if it's not for us, then why are they heavily promoting it on our TV?
Because they spend money on it. Okay. Let me flip it again. I am the co-host of Chairshot Radio. Chairshot. I'm a social suplex guy. Our audience doesn't necessarily listen to Chairshot Radio. That doesn't mean I can't say at the end when we finish this podcast, by the way, I host Chairshot Radio. You spend money on something. You put energy into something. It's okay for you to say, hey, by the way, if you were doing this, you want to watch it, cool.
But it's not
you
just
don't have to watch it.
It's not just a hey, by the way. I mean, there are promo videos and commercials and constant mention.
Why do you feel you have to watch it?
I don't feel like, personally, I don't have to watch it, but I don't want to watch it.
Sure,
but
to
Kyle's point, so the Australia show probably didn't have that many big matches. But if you look at Crown Jewel, the main event is a triple threat Universal title match.
Okay.
They could pull a title change in Saudi Arabia, and Braun Strowman or Brock Lesnar can be the Universal Champion. So you turn on Raw. Next thing you know, there's a new Universal Champion.
You're right. So my retort to that is, does that mean you have to watch the whole 4-hour show?
No. But
so the argument is there's too many shows with these extra outside shows. My argument to that is these outside shows aren't specifically built for the American audience. They're built for the audience of the group that they're doing, and they're just gonna show them because one, WWE Network needs content. Two, they're spending money on it. Okay, so in to that, the retort to my retort was, well, you're these things are canon whether I think they are or not, and uh we have to watch them because what happens on the show might matter. My retort to that is, you can watch whatever you want. You don't have to watch the whole show. Kyle just said he didn't watch Super Showdown. He knows everything that happened, but the stuff he wanted to see, he's paid attention to.
Oh, I haven't watched a single match from that show because they redid them all on Tuesday.
Well, I didn't say you watched matches, but I'm saying like you've seen the clips of the Buddy Murphy match. You've seen clips of it. You know what I'm saying? Like you've seen what you wanted to see of that match, of that show.
I'm just glad Cedric Alexander's not champ anymore.
Me too.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, we're being selfish in that we don't want this to happen because we think it's for us. It's not. And it's not wrong for them to want to advertise something that they're doing. That would be like saying, okay, well, they can't advertise. So in the same breath, y'all are saying, and I know you're not, but I'm just saying hypothetically, y'all are saying in the same breath, well, they did this movie with Miz, Becky, and Shawn, Marine 27 or whatever it is, but they shouldn't advertise that on their shows because it's not Raw. That's not fair.
Right.
They can put their hands in as many pots as they want.
Right, and we're not saying they shouldn't advertise their other products. It's just how hard you go on it. I guarantee that NXT UK is not going to be hyped up as much as Crown Jewel or Super Showdown or any of these other Greatest Royal Rumble, because NXT UK is in its own little universe, and so obviously that's not canon with the main roster. So yeah, you might get like a quick commercial that the announcers might mention it at the top of the show. We're not going to hear much about NXT UK on the main roster, but these international shows, these international shows they're built up almost as part of the pay-per-view calendar.
They are built up as if they're part of the pay-per-view calendar
because they're essentially a pay-per-view for the Australian crowd shown on the WWE Network. Yes, they're a pay-per-view, but not for us. They are a pay-per-view, absolutely, just not for us. Obviously, this is a situation where the network almost hurts my point, because my point would be this: if we still had to watch pay-per-views on the pay-per-view channels and buy them like we used to, $40, $50, I would bet money they wouldn't be on the pay-per-view channel in America. We'd be able to watch them because they're not for us. Yeah. But because everything's on the network and we've been spoiled, we can see it all.
Well, to that
point,
if
we can see it all, might as well go ahead and advertise, right?
Well, to that point, Rance, yeah, if it was on traditional pay-per-view, it probably wouldn't be on pay-per-view in the States, which means they probably wouldn't spend as much time promoting it to their fans in the States. They would probably have like different commercials. They might mention it, but I guarantee you they wouldn't go as hard on the American feed about a show that Americans cannot buy or cannot watch.
You're probably right. I don't think I can dispute that at all, because you're right. But I still don't think it means that another point real quick to kind of finish my point. I don't want to harp on this all night because I know we got to get out of here. But we also realize that Raw and SmackDown isn't just watching America, right?
Right. And here's the thing. And I'm not saying they shouldn't do international shows. I like the international shows. It gives it a different look, a different feel. But like Kyle was saying, why not, have Crown Jewel or whatever, why couldn't that be like the October pay-per-view and not have a whole
another show in October?
Yeah, like why can't these international shows just they're already kind of built into the pay-per-view calendar. Just have them be a part of the 12, 13 pay-per-views that we have a year. I'm fine with them doing an international show and building this pay-per-view as part of the pay-per-view calendar and advertising it that way. But and I know you're going to say we don't have to watch all 24 shows. But if you're trying to keep up with the product and they're promoting the show heavily, you kind of want to keep up with what's going on in these shows, especially if it's going to be advertised on every Raw, every SmackDown.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I mean, I can't tell you're wrong because your points make sense and they're valid. I just completely disagree totally because I see the merit in pushing for. I see the merit in pushing a show that's specifically for another group of people and just saying fuck it. I'm everybody got a chance to watch it if you want to watch it. There's nothing wrong with that. All the money they're spending on these shows, or essentially for Saudi Arabia, all the money they're getting for these shows, why the hell not put it on the network? I don't. But it's not. These shows aren't necessarily 100% canon. They have moments that are canon, absolutely. But a lot of the times, everything that happened in Jeddah, with the exception of Roman spearing Brock out the cage, none of it mattered the next night. None of it did. Have you seen the Saudi Arabia belt from Braun?
No, but I think this is going to be one of those points where we have to agree to disagree here.
Sure.
Yeah, because we can.
And I don't want you to think that I think that you're like dead ass wrong. Like I get
right,
you,
and
but I just think you're looking at it from a point of view that isn't from what I think our biggest problem as fans is not that we're wrong at how we think. It's just that WWE is telling you something and you're saying, I'm not going to listen to you, WWE. I want to see it my way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand your point too. Like, I'm not, trying to like bash you for you have your view and you have your opinion. Kyle and I have our view and opinion, and we're not always going to agree. But yeah, we're seeing things differently here.
Kyle?
Oh, I got nothing. I know better than to argue with you. You stubborn as shit.
Well,
I'm not that dumb.
Yeah, I'm stubborn as shit, but one thing about me, I'm very stubborn. But one thing about me is I will always try to give facts to back my points up. But before I guess this is as good time as any to kind of get out of here. Jeremy, tell them where to find you, brother.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Jeremy L. Donovan. Keeping It Strong Style, you can follow that at KI Strong Style, and of course Social Suplex at Social Suplex. And Keeping It Strong Style drops normally every Tuesday right here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. So if you're listening to this show, make sure you're subscribed. You'll get the Outsider's Edge along with our show and all the other great programs we have on the network.
Kyle?
You can find me online at Dr. S'mores. You can also find our good brother Karl at Outsider Curvin. He has the most interesting and active Twitter of the Outsider's Edge podcast. So he's the person to go to if you want to be entertained.
Yeah, active Twitter, never on podcast.
Damn.
That's not right.
Buried that, man.
Hashtag bring back Karl.
Bring them back. You can find me at It's Ray Cash, RUY as in Mysterio, CASH as in dollars. You can also find the show at Outsiders Edge SS. I also, as I mentioned earlier, I do a podcast on the Chairshot Radio Network, Chairshot Radio at Chairshot Radio, with Christopher Platt at The Real C. Platt. The Edge is simulcast on Chairshot Radio and Social Suplex Network. So shout out to the Chairshot at thechairshot.com.
Always use your head.
Always use your head. And if you guys don't have nothing else, Kyle, you can take us out, brother.
All right. As y'all know, we are just some young men trying to live our dreams, and you got to respect that. So if we said anything today that you don't agree with or that hit you and made you feel a certain type of way, just keep in mind that we're following our dreams, and you have to respect us for following our dreams. And also keep in mind that if you don't respect us, we don't give a fuck. Have a good one, ladies and gentlemen.